husband and I were at our vacation home in Sun Valley, Idaho, and um, we woke up at the usual time, which was about 7 o'clock, a little before, turned on TV to get the news. And of course, 7 o'clock in Sun Valley was 9 o'clock in New York City. So we turned on the news and it wasn't the same as it normally was. And it looked like it was some kind of a Bruce Willis movie. And I said to Pierre, we must have, left the thing on last night and just not switched to the right channel. And so we double checked it. And it was Good Morning America. And it was just at about that time that the second plane flew into the towers. And it was, we could hardly believe it. You can't, so hard to wrap your head around that kind of thing. And my husband, being a retired captain for American Airlines, knew immediately that all flights would be grounded. And we had planned to fly to San Francisco the next day to visit our son. But now the major goal was just to get home, get back to Boston, and get our car so we could drive up to New Hampshire, where I am now. So we had rented a car, and so we said, why don't we just keep the car and not turn it in, and we'll drive. So that's what we did. And it was such an incredible drive because there was not an awful lot of traffic, but what there was, almost every single car, and especially trucks, had small American flags flying from their windows. And the good old American entrepreneurial spirit was active because there were already people out at the gas stations selling these flags that were designed to attach to your windows. So it was a long drive. I think it was about a 4 day drive. And when we got to Boston Logan, where we had left our car, of course it had been impounded because every car that was parked at Boston Logan on that day was impounded for the security. So we had to go about finding our car, and it took a while, but we got the car back, and then we were able to drive up here to New Hampshire, where we live. And in those days, we spent a fair amount of time in New York City. We had a timeshare condo, and it was so interesting in the aftermath because we had been scheduled to go to New York City shortly after 9/11, and we thought, well, let's just go ahead. Nobody was sure what was going to be happening, but we went, and I've never seen New York City like that before or since. It was almost like a small town. Everybody was talking to each other. We went by the fire departments, and everybody was stopping to talk to the firefighters. And when you go to a restaurant, the maitre d' was actually very nice to you and happy to have your business, which is not normal. And so New York City was the best I've ever seen it in those days, in those months after 9/11. If anything good were to come out of that horrible day, it was that. It was that. And so I will just never forget it. it was really the experience, which was so awful and so hard to reconcile, then became something good happened out of it. Now, of course, New York is not that way anymore, but for a while, for for almost a year, I would say, it was really a good place to be and a good place to visit. We went to the church, but there was still a lot of cleanup to be done at the site. So we didn't get too close to it. The church was as close as we could get. Um, and it was pretty devastating. So we didn't try to get any closer because it would have hampered. I just I can just see the whole thing happening again, even if even if current TV doesn't show it. I can see it in my mind's eye. I can just absolutely see everything that we saw that day and the shock of it and the horror of it. And it took so much time really to understand what was happening. Um, and of course, everybody was waiting for the next shoe to drop, which it did at the Pentagon and then in Shanksville. So it was something that um, people just it really brought people together all the way across the country. Every place we stopped, and then in New York, it really brought people together as Americans. And that was the good thing that came out of it, I thought.